So what we're going to do is we are going to find the equation of a circle where 8, -5, and 2, 6 are the endpoints of its diameter. Okay, so as soon as I am getting this equation, what I'm going to do is I'm going to look for things that tell me what formulas I might use. And first thing that I see is I want the equation of a circle. And I know that the equation of a circle is r squared is equal to x minus h squared plus y minus k squared. Don't forget those squares, okay? Now, in order to give them what they want, I'm going to need to find two things for this formula. I need to find hk and I need to find r. So if I can find these two things, I will be good to go. Well, the problem is I do not have a center. I have 2 points that are on the circle, so I have two different x, y's, and that's it. I don't have a radius either. But let's consider the circle that it gave us. So if I were to sketch this circle out, and I'm not even going to use a coordinate plane, I'm just going to put on some points here. We've got 8, -5. It doesn't even matter where I put these. I know that that's not necessarily reasonable because that would be down underneath the line. 2, 6 would be maybe over here. And these are opposite ends of a diameter. Okay, now there's a reason why I drew this picture, and that of course is to make some observations and to help me out with solving. And the first thing that I'm observing is that what I drew in when I drew in the diameter is I ended up with a midpoint smack dab in the middle, and that is the center of the circle. And I end up with a radius here and a radius here, so half of the diameter. Well, that's really nice because if I'm considering the formulas I have to work with, distance is one formula that I have, and distance should be able to give me at least the distance between these 2 points, and the radius is just half of that. In midpoint always tells me what is exactly in the center, which is our hk. So that means that if I use the midpoint formula, I should be able to find hk, and if I use a distance formula, I should be able to find r. So let's start with the midpoint formula. So in order to find the midpoint, which is our hk, all I need to do is do x1 plus y1, or x1 plus x2 over 2, and then y1 plus y2 over 2. Now I just need to label my x1 and y1. And in my original, I'm just going to call the first one I see 1, because remember, it doesn't matter which one's 1 and which one's 2. And the second one can be our second coordinate, so x2, y2. So when I'm filling this in, I'm going to end up with 8 plus 2 over 2. And my y is -5 plus 6 over 2. 8 plus 2 is 10. Divided by 2 is 5. -5 plus 6 is 1. Divided by 2 is 1/2. So now I know what my hk is equal to. So hk is going to be 5 and 1/2. Now I just need to find my radius, and I'll have everything I need for my formula. Again, notice how I've set this up. It kind of gives me that guideline, so I know that the only thing I'm still looking for is radius, and I can treat it almost as a couple separate problems. Okay, so if I wanted to find my radius, well, what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to find the distance. And I have two options here. I can find the distance between this and the midpoint, and that will be the radius. Or I could find the distance between this and the other far point and divide by 2. I'm just going to use the midpoint. That way I don't need to divide by 2. So in our distance formula, we know that d, our distance here, is going to be our radius. And we're going to use the points, and it doesn't matter which one you pick. I'm going to pick the positive values just because I don't really like dealing with negative values if I can avoid them. 2, 6, and 5 1/2. And our distance formula itself, and I'm going to pull this down here for a sec, is going to be d is equal to the square root of x1 minus x2 squared plus y1 minus y2 squared, or the other way around. It doesn't matter which, because again, the order doesn't matter when you're going to square them. It will get rid of the negative that appears for one of those options. Okay, so let's label these ones. I'm going to just call this my first point, and this one my second point. So here I'm going to end up with 2 minus 5 quantity squared plus 1/2 minus 6 quantity squared. And of course I'm going to do this whole thing under the square root. Now this is going to give me a -3. And -3 squared is 9. Over here I've got a -5.5. And since it doesn't matter, I could just do 5.5 squared to get that positive value, which is 30.25. So 9 plus 30.25 is 39.25. Take the square root of that, and that's our radius. And that's going to give us an answer of r, our distance, is equal to 6.265 approximately. So what I can do at this point is, now that I've found my distance, or r, I can substitute that into my original formula, and I'm just going to write that by r up here. Because at this point I can see that in my guideline I have fulfilled all of the things that I need to find in order to have the equation of a circle, which means that all I need to do is fill them in the actual formula. So I'm going to take my radius, 6.265 squared, and drop it into there, which, by the way, we do know is 39.25, so if you wanted to write this as 39.25, that would be great. And that's going to equal, I know I don't have my squared in there yet, I'm going to get that in there in just a second, color coordinating here. Oh, and I already mixed up the color coordinating, so I guess it doesn't matter. So squared here, x minus h, which is 5 over here squared, plus y minus k, which is 1/2 squared. And that gives us our final answer for the equation of a circle. Oh, I get so excited about color coordinating, then I make a silly mistake. But that is our final answer. Notice how I'm considering what each of these tell me, and notice how I keep things organized. That should help you out as you go through your problems. Hopefully if you did skip ahead, that's the answer that you got. And otherwise, go back through, check it out, and see where things might have gone wrong. Either minor or major errors can pop up. So now go ahead and try out those problems. Again, if you have any questions, don't be afraid to ask. The answer key will be up tomorrow morning. Please look through it before taking the quiz and make sure that you're comfortable with those concepts. You do have time to chat with me before taking the quiz if the concepts or review from today does not go great. All right, that's it. I hope you guys have a great day.